You have allowed this Dark Lord to twist your mind until now you have become the very thing you swore to destroy.
Don't lecture me. I have brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire.
Stellaris Developer Diary 262 has dropped, and in today's Developer Diary we are getting some updates to accessibility, updates to reliquaries, which is going to really help with achievements, updates to achievements, and some further changes to the relics, which should allow you to basically play as the Great Khan. It's going to be pretty darn wild. All of that and more to come, so without any further ado, let's dive in. First up here, we're going to be getting some quality of life and UI update changes. Megastructures are now coming to the outliner in the base game of Stellaris. So for a long time on PC, they apparently have wanted a megastructures section in the outliner. As you can see from this image, basically it's going to be somewhere you can have all of the ruined megastructures that can be upgraded, as well as all of the regular structures as well. I think the most interesting and useful part of this new feature is going to be that they've got gateway sites listed here in this megastructures. I mean, usually, and I do mean generally and usually, you don't tend to lose track of a ruined megastructure in your empire. You tend to be hyper aware of it, especially from the early game. It's very exciting to find a ruined megastructure that you can easily upgrade later on in the game. But with gateway sites, there is no large UI element on the galactic map to show you're halfway through building a gateway. You've built the site, but you need to upgrade it. So having this here in the outliner, I think is going to be really, really helpful and really useful. We're not going to lose track of them anymore. There are also some fantastic accessibility improvements coming with the new patch 3.54 next. We're going to be getting the mouse side button mode, which will have 3 settings: normal, inverted, and off. The normal setting will map mouse keys 4 and mouse keys 5 to quote unquote their original mapping. What that mapping is that mouse key 4 will toggle the pause state in the galaxy, so you'll no longer have to press that pesky spacebar, and mouse key 5 will go between galactic and system views. Now, for most players, this probably isn't really going to be something you find necessary, but for some people, for those of us possibly with a disability that are playing the game, this is going to be fantastic. And if you've only got one hand to play the game with, for example, it's going to make playing Stellaris much, much easier. As you can also see here from this visual, we're also going to be getting multiplayer chat visual alerts and multiplayer chat large font, so more accessibility improvements as well. Page up and page down will now adjust the camera zoom level, and finally, there are other accessibility improvement projects ongoing for future updates. The devs are hoping to have a text-to-speech available in an open beta later on this year, coming for the 3.6 Orion update. And, ladies and gentlemen, we've also now been leaked here. The name of update 3.6, patch 3.6, is going to be Orion, which I think is very interesting to know that name. That's pretty cool. But as far as I know, this is the first time it's actually been mentioned. The next new change coming is, in my opinion, a really, really helpful change that will finally let me finish one of the achievements that has eluded me for a long, long time. We're now going to get access to the Golden Tianqi status. The Caravansary Caravan Coalition will reward their most loyal patrons with this status. Those who have purchased a sufficient number of reliquaries will now be granted the honor, nay the nobility, of being able to purchase as many as you would like directly for energy credits with no more cooldowns, as you are a best and fantastic customer. This finally means we can spam the living daylights out of getting reliquaries to hopefully open the Galatron and get that achievement after long last. Also, it gives us a sync for all of those extra energy credits in the mid-game and late game when we get to a point where we are stacking up too many energy credits. Things like alloys are really too expensive to buy for it to be worthwhile, and we'd like to spend our hundreds of thousands of energy credits somewhere and feel we're getting some interesting value for money. Being able to spaff those energy credits up the proverbial wall made of reliquaries, I think is a pretty fantastic idea. However, it should be noted that they eventually get pretty expensive, with the dev saying that basically it adds 5% to the cost every time you buy it. I'm assuming that's 5% additively, not cumulatively, and therefore we're not getting a compound interest effect going on here, but that still does mean it will get quite expensive. After 20 purchases, they will double in price. And if you're enjoying this video, please submit to that like button. The devs are also showing off even more of the new achievements that will be integrated with the species packs that we've so far come to know and love. First up is Aquatics Holy Water. If you drench, that is using the Aquatics Colossus on a Fallen Empire's world, you'll get this water gun looking achievement. There be dragons. Have at least 13 dragons you own in your capital system. I'm actually not entirely sure how you would actually achieve this in game. I'm assuming the dragon hatchlings, the smaller dragons, they're going to be fine. Possibly also the revived dragons, they'll be absolutely okay as well. But we'll have to see. So far, I can't actually see how this is even possible off the top of my head. If you have the Necroid species pack with great power, comes the ability for a new achievement. As a necrophage, do not invade any pre-FTL civilizations until you have defeated the crisis, so really late in the game, or somewhat easier I believe, have at least 10 observation stations around pre-FTL worlds. That first one would be a real hampering to you as a necroid, because as a necrophage empire, your two starting guaranteed habitable worlds start with pre-FTL civilizations on rather than just being empty worlds. Although, yeah, I think it's possible if you really want to nerf yourself at the start of the game. The other side of this, the second part, is quite easy as long as you can find enough pre-FTL worlds. Recent history is, I think, quite a sad achievement, as a memorialist empire have galactic memorials on 5 tomb worlds that did not start the game as tomb worlds. So that basically means because you can't start as a fanatic purifier, there must be a few fanatic purifier or determined exterminator empires out there in the galaxy, and you have to let them use Armageddon bombardment stance on at least enough worlds to make 5 new tomb worlds, and or hope that some of the pre-FTL civilizations nuke themselves into oblivion so that you can set up some memorials rather than actually saving anyone. So I think from an internal roleplay perspective, that's quite a grim achievement. With the Lithoid species pack, there is room for desert, not dessert here, consume another empire's desert homeworld. That's if you are the Terravore, I would assume. That should generally be relatively straightforward to achieve as just a normal Terravore empire. And can you smell what the Lithoids are cooking? As a Lithoid empire, keep another Lithoid pop as livestock or process them. Basically, this one means you're going to be turning rocks into your slaves and or your processing materials to get minerals out of them, because you'll be cooking with lithoids. Again, pretty straightforward to achieve. With plantoids, there is the growing like weeds. As a budding species that does not have the clone army origin, achieve a base organic pop assembly of at least 10 per month on your capital. As a hive mind, that should be relatively straightforward. You're already going to start with 5, so from that point, you just, and I really do say just in inverted air quotes here, need to get 250 other budding pops on your capital to push your pop growth over this 10 limit, but then you should be able to achieve it. Tend the garden, become the custodian of Wenkwork Artem, designating it a resort world with a ranger lodge, and all original blockers are present. Basically what you have to do to this one is don't use Wenkwork Artem in a nice way. Designating it a resort world is probably one of the stupidest things I could hear of you possibly doing with it, but you know, at the end of the day, if you don't want to designate your tomb worlds as resort worlds and you want to destroy a perfectly good Gaia world for it, be my guest. Sometimes you really have to do some crazy things to get these achievements. With the humanoid species pack, the first achievement is that you must issue Directive 67.
Execute Order 66.
Yes, my lord.
You might be able to guess from the artwork and the interesting things I've just put on your screen what you need to do for this. Well, as a clone soldier origin empire, yes, you have to be a clone army, you must denounce and make sure that a spiritualist fallen empire is declared the crisis in the galactic community, and then you have to destroy them. Yep, you have to basically go full Order 66 on an innocent and peace-loving spiritualist fallen empire. And the second achievement is destroy the people of Earth. As the Commonwealth of Man, destroy the United Nations of Earth whilst your ruler is a human being with a symbiotic brain slug. And don't do it by destroying the final planet. Now, we've noticed this final planet text part in a lot of these achievements. That's basically to prevent you getting them by becoming the crisis, blowing up a whole load of empires simultaneously, defeating them, and thus earning all of these achievements, I would assume. And the last achievement we're showing off is one from the Synthetic Dawn, Machine Supremacy. Win the game as a machine uprising. Now, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong viewers, but I'm pretty sure what this one means is that you must first trigger the AI uprising mid-game crisis in your own empire, then choose to switch to the machines when the actual crisis unfolds and the uprising happens, and then go on to complete the game. That is a really fun and cool achievement to have because I know I haven't actually bothered to do it, and I'm pretty sure it's quite difficult because of the way your empire is totally screwed when you start as a machine uprising, so it's going to be cool to include this here and have a go with it. If you're enjoying this video and you'd like to support this channel, and you'd also like to get your hands on some of the Stellaris DLC at a fantastic discount, then look no further. By following the link to Humble Bundle down in the description, you can purchase Stellaris DLC on sale until Friday. Until September 1st, you can get your hands on the Paradox turn-based bundle for under €11. This bundle includes Age of Wonders Planetfall Premium Edition, Battletech Mercenary Collection, along with 4 other items. Simply follow the link down in the description to get your hands on this great deal. Alright, we've talked about a lot of things, achievements, other bits and pieces coming. Now we're getting to some real meat. There are further changes coming to the relics. One of those changes, I'm going to start with this one because it's the biggest one basically. Once you get your hands on this relic, you're basically going to be able to play as the Great Khan mid-game crisis. In the mid-game, there can be, if you have Marauder clans, Marauder empires in the galaxy, a Great Khan forming, a Great Khan spawning, and that leads to a period of great instability as the Great Khan goes out on a crusade amongst the galaxy, uniting various peoples. Now, empires can submit to the Great Khan. If they do, they become a satrapy. And on top of that, if you finally defeat the Great Khan in battle, whoever does defeat the Great Khan for the final time and kill him will get access to the Khan's throne. That is the relic you get by defeating the Great Khan, and they've made some changes to it. The biggest change here is that you will get access to the Satrapy subject preset. Why is that such a big deal? Well, as a satrapy, you directly leech naval capacity from your subjects, meaning that if you defeat the Great Khan, you can take the Great Khan's power and use it to force other empires into becoming your satrapies. And once they are, you'll be accumulating more and more naval capacity from these subjects, as well as, of course, getting some basic resources too, which will definitely help out with your economy. This means, in my opinion, that the Khan's throne is now the most powerful relic in Stellaris, given the timing of which you can get it. If you get this in the early mid-game and use it to snowball and grab other empires, it could be a very useful route to get as much naval capacity as you physically can in the game, and by maxing out this naval capacity, you'll then be able to hopefully build up a big enough navy later on in the endgame to defeat the endgame crisis. In something like a 25 times crisis run, being able to abuse the Khan's throne to get satrapies and thus stack massive amounts of naval capacity, I think is going to be really powerful. Oh, and did I mention you can also get plus 20% weapons damage as well, and a minus 20% influence cost claim from the same artifact. It is going to be absolutely insane. Anybody who can get their hands on this relic is going to have a fantastic time basically becoming the Khan. And as I have mentioned, for higher runs, maybe we're going to be facing that old crisis mode on 25 times, going up to the 55 times, getting the Khan's throne and forcing the rest of the galaxy to become satrapies and give you their naval capacity might be the only way to survive.
I'm so sorry. This is the only way.
What are you doing?
I can't let that thing take your power. You can't control it, but I can.
And the more I think about it, the more powerful this strategy could become. Using the Satrapy preset is the most cost-efficient way to get naval capacity in the game because it doesn't cost you anything. In fact, you're going to be making energy credits from it. There is no other way in this game to get naval capacity without having to spend energy credits beyond your initial science, and that has a maximum amount of usage. In fact, in the very late game, it probably is going to be worth it to build a single habitat on a single system, throw that system out as a one-system vassal, as a satrapy, and then get some of the naval capacity it will have from having maximum technology, which should be somewhere in the region of 300 to 400, meaning you'll be getting around 60 to 80 naval cap per system in that way, and that's before they even start getting some fortresses or anything like that going. It is going to be really, really, really powerful. And I cannot wait to be able to get my hands on it and do a bit of a roleplay playthrough as the Great Khan. There's also a bit of a balance pass coming through for some of the relics that have so far been untouched. As far as we can tell though, all of the relic changes I spoke about last week are still in effect, so I won't cover any of those again. If you want to know about them, go and check out last week's Dev Diary video that I did where I covered all of the relic changes we had thus far. What is the new stuff apart from the Khan's Throne? Well, the Defragmenter will now have a usage for non-robot empires, granting 10% energy upkeep reduction to all jobs, buildings, and districts. That's a nice reduction and definitely not overpowered. The Spiritualist Ethics attraction for the Head of Zarklan has been moved from passive to an active effect, meaning you will only get plus 75% Spiritualist Ethics attraction for having this head if you actually spawn the Fallen Empire fleet. The fleet will also now be increasing in size every time you get a new one, which is, I think, quite nice. And the passive here allows the settling of holy worlds. They've also, and this is I think quite a fun change, allowed it to spawn not with the player but with the AI 25% of the time, and if the AI gets their hands on it, they will now conquer, and I say conquer, I mean colonize, the holy worlds that the Spiritualist Fallen Empire loves when they possess this relic. So we should see a bit more usage of the relic in the game, not just from us, but also from AI empires around, which should be a little terrifying. This kind of inclusion, though, of having relics going to AIs more and more does mean I think we should have more of an ability to get our hands on the relics of other empires, possibly a war goal to claim relic or something like that, where we can go to war specifically for a relic, as well as possibly some cash or other financial incentives too. But that would be quite a good way to get the relics moving around the game, rather than at the moment we only have a 10% chance of getting your hands on a single relic when you conquer an alien empire's capital. You can abuse that by conquering the capital, giving it back, and conquering it again and again and again, but that's not really very fun. Further changes we're getting are the Psionic Archive will now allow Gestalt empires to find the Psionic Theory, which in turn will grant them access to the Zro mining technology, meaning if you get the Psionic Archive as a Gestalt consciousness, you're no longer locked out of actually being able to use this Zro. The Brood Queen will now grant a stacking empire modifier to swarm-type weapons, missiles, and strikecraft for each use, and will also spawn the carrier variant on use. I think that's pretty cool. The Pox sample will increase the likelihood that you find biological technologies. The Omni Codex will now give plus 25 relation with non-robot empires if you are a robot empire. That's pretty cool in single player. And the Reality Perforator active modifiers now last 2 to 5 years rather than the annoying and quite short-lasted 1 to 5 years. So we are getting quite a few changes coming to the relics very soon with patch 3.5. Across the board, there's now actually, I'm pretty sure, only a couple of relics aren't getting any changes, and that's quite interesting to see, quite cool to have a full rebalancing like this. They've also finished off the Dev Diary saying next week is PDXCon at München Bregeriet. But don't worry, apparently there will still be a Dev Diary. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to be able to record a Dev Diary response, because on the Thursday of next week, I'll be in the middle of traveling to Stockholm to attend PDXCon, because I'm going this year, and if you're going as well, fantastic. I'll probably see you there at some point, though you may not recognize me without all of my scaly skin. They're also going to have the new patch 3.5 Fornax up and running, and that means I should be able to get my hands on it, play with it, and bring back some feedback for you folks to let you know my thoughts on the latest patch, which I'm definitely very excited to try out. There'll also be a QA panel, lots of questions from the audience going on, and a small workshop where they will reveal how their summer experiments have gone. I'm most looking forward to hearing about the experiments that Eladrin, the Stellaris game director, has been doing on warfare. That's what I'm really interested in asking some questions about. And if you've got anything you'd like me to ask or say at the PDXCon to the devs while I'm there, please let me know down in the comments below. I will try to go through all of the comments and basically fish out some of the really great responses and bring them to the attention of our devs. I'll hopefully be making and releasing a bit of content over the next week, and then as well I'm hoping to make a little bit of content while I am at PDXCon, though probably it's going to be very, very busy. So if you don't hear from me, I'm probably under a beer barrel somewhere, something like that. And so if that is the case, I do apologize. I'll probably take to Twitter to let you know my thoughts during the PDXCon. So as well, if you'd like to hear about what's going on at PDXCon directly from me, give me a follow down on Twitter. There is a link down in the description. There's also a link somewhere on the channel page if you want to jump across. But speaking of experiments, I wonder what would happen if someone tried to play Stellaris without researching a single technology. If you'd like to know how I fared when I gave this challenge a go, click the video on screen now.